how do you know you're ready to date again? I will say that some of my closest friends have ended their marriages and moved on. And I've spent a lot of time watching them go, I'm never going to date again, to finally coming to a place of, I think I am going to date again. What was that deciding factor for you that made you want to go out and connect with another human again?
Yeah. Well, hand on heart, I think I started too soon. And it's interesting having having written the book, because it was friends, of course, who encouraged me. It was sort of like the get back on the horse kind of analogy, really.
Oh my gosh.
And actually, I wish I hadn't. And the first chapter in the book, and the book is called SAS 60 and Single, Your Survival Guide to Dating, is about love yourself first and date yourself first.
Yep.
And I think, really knowing what makes you tick, what you want from a relationship, what things you love doing, what brings you joy, what doesn't bring, and saying no to things that don't bring you joy. It's interesting as well. You certainly, after a 31-year marriage as well, there are friends and connections as well that you will lose. So there's a bit as well of establishing almost new friendship groups as well, and a new support group. So, and it was interesting, I'm trying to think when, so I finally was separated last April. Getting through a Christmas New Year on my own was quite significant, though, because I was dreading it, and I'm sort of thinking, oh, this is going to be really difficult. It's my first single Christmas and first single New Year. Actually, it was fine. And I thought, I've grown up now.
Well, oh yeah.
It was, I think that's when I thought that was the moment when I thought I'm ready. All the things I was anticipating, feeling very nostalgic about or very sentimental about, actually it was okay. Yeah. So that was my significant moment. But I had gone through a lot of, from working, I was used to work in big teams of people, and obviously used to live live with my husband in a marriage. I was on my own in a house, and I love company, and I'm very gregarious and very sociable. And there were moments probably when I was lonely, and I had to almost have to as well learn to be good in my own company, which is quite interesting. And again, I think finding yourself and being okay on your own is quite important as well before you start dating.
Yep. That it's another thing that I found in my research is that there's some pretty strong evidence that when we go into puberty as girls, we start getting societal messaging that you're good, you're worthy if you're pleasing everybody around you. And so when we hit our menopausal years, we haven't really exercised that muscle, what do I want? And what I'm hearing you say is the moment of loneliness or the moment of being alone provided you that opportunity to get to know yourself in a different way, and get to know what you actually want outside of the demands of other people around you. And I would think that is scary and freeing all at the same time. What did you discover about yourself that you were shocked? Like in the alone, you can learn a lot. Was there anything you were shocked by in those first initial transition into alone?
I studied a lot more, actually. I sort of did a lot more reading and things. So I think that finding your own viewpoints and things through reading and education, that aren't your joint views, it gives you the time to do that. I do think, I've got very strong bonds with my mum and dad and my children as well. And actually they become more important and different as well. When it's not as a couple. And I love the outdoors. I love walking, I love climbing, and actually just having time doing that. And really, I found time enjoying nature, which I've probably sacrificed some of that because my husband didn't enjoy it as much, actually. So that was great to actually, find just how meditative. Actually, I'm not very good at meditating. I find being outside and walking very meditative.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and all amazing things that I think the transition of menopause provides is that for all of us, whether people stay in relationships or leave, a big part of Age Like a Girl is my next book. And I really want to bring forward that it is that moment to step in and get to know yourself because of the brain changes that have happened. So that was so beautifully stated. Okay, now you decide you're going to go out and you're going to date. I mean, as a woman who's in a 30-plus-year-old marriage, I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like, do you go to a dating app? Like, we didn't have dating apps back then. Like,
exactly.
Where do you start? Do you put a sign out? I'm ready. Like, how do you go after this?
Oh my goodness, Mindy. Well, it's so funny because, everybody goes, I could write a book about my dating stories. And I did. So
yeah, there you go.
So it was just such a learning experience, as you said. I think I met my husband at a nightclub where our eyes met across the dance floor. That's how you used to meet people. It was sort of, whereas I'd never ever ventured on a dating app before. What's quite interesting now, because I do have a section on trying to meet people outside of dating apps, but gosh, it's hard now. Because the situation, the way.
Interesting.
In I'm going to say bars now, because of society's changes now, people don't like to be, they're scared of approaching, or they're worried it's going to come across wrong. And there's quite a lot of changes to how people behave now, I think, in a situation where you could go and approach a group of ladies or a group of gents or whatever and talk to them. It's quite interesting changes. So so I embarked on the world of dating apps, and gosh, it's hard.
So one you recommend? Is there?
Wow. Yeah. So I think I tried 6 different ones in the end. What? And yeah. Well, I think I started off on 2, and then I thought, when it was a book, I thought, I'm going to have to, experience a few more and how they work. So of the ones I went on, I recommended Bumble, which is the female-led app, actually. So, but gosh, there was so I the section in the book, I talk about date yourself first, learning about yourself. But then I do talk about, what do you want from your next partner? Because you just don't necessarily want to go with what you've always wanted before and end up with a version 2
don't repeat the same mistakes.
Exactly that. And then I talk about actually writing your own profile and give some tips on that, and which are the right sort of photographs. And I've got a great friend who's a professional matchmaker as well, and she supported me and gave me some advice as well. And then how to manage those first conversations, and because whether it's closed questions, yes and no questions don't get you anywhere. And you do find lots of men who give one-word answers. So trying to winkle out some information that's going to help you find the right person. And then there are some interesting characters that come out the woodwork that I'm trying to give everybody some tips on how to navigate them, whether it's, sadly, the cougar hunters. There's lots of young gentlemen who, I think, if you're an older woman, you're going to be desperate to date them. You've got some narcissists on there and some misogynists, and I'm giving tips on how to find them and spot them and, dodge them. Yeah. So, and then, I do.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, there is. And then, there's tips on all the sort of terminology, which I'd never used, the zombieing and the ghosting and the breadcrumbing, and there's all sorts of terminology that you need to know when you're dating online.
That's so funny. So one of my closest friends who will probably listen to this episode and die that I'm telling this story. We were at a supermarket and she got hit on by a good-looking younger man. She's 60 and this guy must have been early 30s. And or late 20s, early 30s. And we leave, and she was flirting with him in the supermarket, and we leave, and she's like, he just gave me his number. And I'm like, are you serious? Look at you. Like, good.
Yeah.
She goes, he's the same age as my son. I can't go and date that guy. Yeah. So do you... do you have to put an age parameter?
You do.
Yeah. How do you build out what your boundaries are and who you're going to attract?
Well, I think that part of the beginning about what do you want from a relationship is important. It's interesting because I started off, I'm 62, and I think I put 48 to 62 actually on my data parameters. Too much information. But somebody said, well, you should lower it, and I think I did. In fairness, I think I dated a 43-year-old for a little bit. But it is interesting what you said, because, whether it is this change in hormones and this strength you get and this confidence you get and the lack of people pleasing.
Yeah.
What you do find is that it is unbelievably attractive to genuinely, there are 25-year-old young men who say they are 45 in order to meet you. So they'll put their age as 45. So you think you think you're being paired up with somebody who's 45, and actually they're 25. So what's been fascinating to find out is actually, these years are our best years, and this confidence we've got of stopping people pleasing is unbelievably attractive.
Yeah. And don't you wish you had it when you were 25?
Oh, gosh, I wish. Yeah. I so wish our younger selves, we were less worried about how we looked and our body shape and, what other people thought of us. I've often talked about what I'd tell my 21-year-old self, and it would be worry less. It would be worry less for sure.
Yeah. It's so true.